Hi, I'm Mike Bailey. Welcome back to the Meetings Club channel. Now, Lucy Brazier is one of the world's leading authorities on the administrative profession. As CEO of Marcham Publishing, publishers of Executive Secretary magazine, Lucy regularly travels over 100,000 miles a year. In the last 12 months alone, she's visited 41 different countries, speaking at a mind-boggling 189 different conferences, training courses, and special events. So, who better than to share some top tips for busy travelling executives? I managed to grab a few minutes with Lucy before she hopped on the plane, and first of all asked what it was like to be back in the UK.
Oh, Mark, I can't tell you. It's so wonderful. I think I have only been in the UK for something like 10 weeks this year. And my two boys are here, although my daughter's sailing the high seas in her job working on a luxury yacht. But my two boys are here who I just haven't seen an awful lot this year at all, really. And my lovely husband, my long-suffering husband, who is long-suffering but very definitely suffering, I think. There was a period where I didn't see him almost from April to July. And he's just so great because he really loves me getting out there and doing my stuff, and he never complains, but I think he's very happy when I come home.
So where was your last business trip, Lucy?
To Switzerland. I was in Geneva last week doing my 2-day course, the Modern Day Assistant, and there was a group of assistants there from Ferring Pharmaceutical, and we had a great couple of days. They had a fantastic venue, which was in a wood, which backed onto Lake Geneva, so it couldn't have been prettier, and we had 2 beautiful sunny days. But prior to that, I was in Brazil, and actually I talked about my husband a little bit. Well, I had promised him we would spend August together, as we always do, in my house in Spain. And the people from Brazil came and said, would I go and train there? And I said, you know what, if I do that, I shall be divorced because I promised him. And they said, well, why don't you bring him too? So I went and I headlined at probably the biggest conference in Brazil, which was phenomenal. But Duncan, my husband, and I ended up with a week at the Copacabana Palace in Rio and going with a private guide to see all that Rio had to offer, which was just phenomenal. And I have to say, it isn't normally like that. Normally I see far too many hotel rooms and far too many planes, but on this occasion it was a joy.
Now, you travel thousands of miles a year on business by plane. You're running training courses, you're organising conferences, you're a keynote speaker. So what are your personal top tips for executives traveling by plane all over the world?
First thing that I will say is that I was always a very, very nervous flyer, actually. I went through a period of having to take Valium before I could get on a plane, which I know is very strange to relate with the amount of traveling I do now. But what really helped me was to choose an airline and to stick to it, so that I quite quickly got to gold status. And I know we can sometimes think those things are marketing ploys, but actually the fact that I now get to go to the first class lounge before I fly, so I don't have to sit in the main body of the airport with a whole load of people running around being frenetic, and I can be calm and I can get a bit of work done and I can have something to eat before I get on the plane, is huge for me. Being able to choose my seats early so that I get to sit in an aisle seat. I have a list of which aircraft I want what seat on, so that if I am traveling, that knows where I'm likely to be most comfortable, and I will, you know, try and find the seat that I want. I also quite often order the special meal, because that means that I get on and I immediately, pretty much after we've been taken off, get served my meal, which means that I can then go to sleep. And I do try and do night flights if I possibly can. The other thing is, actually, I'm kinder to myself than I ever was. I do try and fly in a day earlier if I can, even if it means doing an evening engagement with a local networking group. And I always get a massage if I've flown more than 5 hours, because I get worried about DVT. So, you know, I'm trying to look after myself, but I'm also trying to go and meet as many people as I possibly can.
So do you try and keep off the alcohol as well when you're flying?
I might have one. I find it helps me to sleep and relaxes me a bit. And you know, underneath there somewhere, the nerves are still there, especially if we suddenly get into turbulence. But I know that I'm getting to be a seasoned flyer, because this year we were flying to Australia and going over India, and the plane started doing that. And I immediately thought, oh, we're probably going over India. Let me check the map. Yes, we are. That's why it's going crazy.
So how do you stay fit and healthy? Because there are so many germs which are always circulating in these planes. Do you always come back with a cold?
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't know really. I mean, I have a kind of nasal gel, which Kamisha Foley put me onto, which means that, because you know, when you go to sleep and you've got aircon, you quite often wake up and you're really dehydrated. And I will use that, because then I don't get so dehydrated when I'm breathing. And I will, I don't know, drink lots and lots and lots of water. I try and get up every couple of hours and just have a bit of a wander around. I did ballet till I was 20, so I get into doing those kind of flexibility exercises that just keep the blood going, I suppose. But I really very rarely get sick on a plane. It's more to do with aircon, actually, when I get to the other end and I'm in a hotel and my throat dries out and I've got to get up on stage and speak, and I take great care of that. I never have dairy before I'm speaking. It's a trick that I learned from my mother, who's an actress, and I drink a lot of herbal tea, which helps a lot.
And how do you minimize jet lag?
I get onto the plane and I alter my watch immediately to where I'm going to be ending up. And then when I get to the other end, I just behave as if I haven't had any problem with getting from A to B and any time lag at all. The other thing that I do is, on occasion, I will take myself off and just go to sleep for 20 minutes. I read somewhere that 20 minutes is what you need. If you sleep for more than that, then you start to get a bit sluggish. But actually, I have been known to be doing training courses, and where I've had to fly in. For example, I did one in Malaysia a few years back, where I flew in and delivered and then went home again. And at lunchtime, I went to my room and went to sleep for 20 minutes and got up and did the afternoon. And I don't feel that I'm ever not on form, really. I think I've got quite a lot of energy. I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but I probably from the students, actually. I don't see how anybody can be tired, really, when they're interacting with people that are inspired.
And you get used to it. You're into a pattern nearly, aren't you?
Well, yes, I do have the odd funny 5 minutes, but it's usually coming back this way to London, you know. And when that's the case, I just take time and I sleep. I just go with it. But I really don't suffer from jet lag anymore. I think my body doesn't know what planet it's on half the time, let alone which country. And we just keep going.
Now, what's this I hear about a certain executive assistant, Matthew Want, who sometimes goes above and beyond and is there to pick you up at the airport after a long trip, armed with snacks and bottles of water?
Oh, no, he's lovely. And I have to say, I don't ask him ever to come and pick me up. I think it's above and beyond. And he doesn't actually live so near to me anymore, although he is quite close to Gatwick when I fly into there. But yes, he has been known to turn up when I have been flying back from trips. I suspect mainly because he wants to get hold of me so that we can have a meeting in the car on the way back. But he'll turn up, yes, with water, because he thinks that I've probably been dehydrated, and we get in the car and have a chat on the way home. So.
But joking apart, how important is it to have a good EA or PA to make all your travel arrangements?
Oh my word, I can't stress the importance of it enough. The amount of time that it would take me to do my own travel. And I have to say to you that when I'm training, I'm saying to the assistants, your executives should not be handling tasks that you ought to be handling. And I do a piece of math with them for that, whereby I say, you know, how much is your executive paid a year? And how much time do you save them? And if you do the math between the two of those, that's what the assistant is contributing to the bottom line. Now, I have a great story from a guy called Jeff Hoffman, and Jeff was the founder of Priceline and Booking.com. And he tells a story where he went to dinner one night with a friend of his who was an eminent heart surgeon. And his friend was doing his own calendar. And he said to him, "What are you doing?" And his friend said, "Well, I'm doing my calendar." And he said, "But aren't you worth $500 an hour?" And the thing that Jeff says, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. Just think about that for a minute. And to all intents and purposes, if you're not allowing your assistant to do your travel for you, then you are paying your assistant your own salary to do that for you. So therefore, you know, Matt doing my travel for me is an absolute must. But also he's phenomenal at it. I get a pack every time I leave, go away, which has all the details of where I'm staying, or my contacts. If I'm speaking at an event, it'll have all the other speakers that are there with biogs and photos, so I can research that on the way out there. And, you know, he has been known to make contact with all the speakers at the event beforehand to set up meetings for me for when I get there as well. So that kind of stuff is invaluable, because I just don't have time, because I'm front facing and out there running around the world doing the things that I do.
It sounds very smooth, great planning, but have you ever had any disasters when you're traveling?
Oh my word, very, very rarely actually. I have to say, if Matt hands me the pack, it works 9 times out of 10, and I don't even have to check it, it's just right. But I have had the odd thing where, you know, obviously flights have been delayed and I suddenly haven't been able to get somewhere. But again, I know I can phone him whenever and he can rearrange that. I'm just trying to think if there's anything in particular. I don't really think so. I think it's minutiae which is irritating, as opposed to anything big going wrong. Fingers crossed, Mark. Fingers crossed. I shouldn't say things like that with the amount that I travel.
So where's your next trip abroad, assuming it all goes okay?
My next trip abroad. I am in London now for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, I head off to America, where I am headlining at APC, which is the biggest conference for assistants in the world. There's myself, S. Lloyd, who is the chair of the World Administrators Summit, Melba Duncan, who I don't think needs any introduction, she's iconic in our industry, and Veronica Cochran, who is the CEO of the IAAP in the States, which is the really big association out there. And we are doing a 4-way discussion with Megan Hall, who is in charge of APC, about the world work and where the administrative profession is heading. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And after that, I head on to Seattle to do Executive Leadership Forum.
Thanks very much indeed for your time on the Meetings Club channel, Lucy.
It's an absolute joy. Thank you so much, Mark.
And if you'd like to find out more about Executive Secretary Magazine, which has some great features, articles and ways to get involved, do check out executivesecretary.com. That's executivesecretary.com. Thanks very much indeed for watching the Meetings Club channel.